Hello, this is the Studio 143 podcast. I'm your host, Luke. This is your co-star, Sean.
Hello.
And that's our sound guy, Patrick, over there. Hey. Okay, today we'll be reviewing the new Drake playlist, More Life, and the new Spoon album, Hot Thoughts. Sean, what do you want to start out with?
Let's start off with Spoon.
All right. So, initial thoughts?
Yeah, I thought this was an amazing album. I thought this is a great example of how to make like a pop rock album in 2017. How to maintain to just keep making good music. I mean, because you look at a lot of like contemporary pop rock music. Think like Coldplay, U2, like modern day U2, and it's all just overproduced, overcompressed. There's no like feel in it. I mean, you could argue that some Coldplay albums have some
of them are guilty pleasures. Some of them are absolutely like bad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm mainly talking about the bad Coldplay albums here.
Yeah.
But I think that this new Spoon album, Hot Thoughts, it was not overcompressed, it was not overproduced. The production on it was actually amazing. Instrumentation on it was super diverse and great.
Oh yeah.
Overall, it was still super poppy though.
Yeah.
Super poppy, but it wasn't. But it was by no means like bad.
Yeah.
I think it was great.
My position on Spoon for the long run has always been I think they're more of a singles band than an album band. That was especially more applying to their albums in the 2000s, like Gimme Fiction or Gaga Gaga, which I feel like I felt that they were kind of overrated. I feel like for a while they had brilliant singles like I Turn My Camera On, but then when you actually listen to the entirety of Gimme Fiction, there's a lot of filler and a lot of songs that aren't catchy or blandly produced or just and with the just cheesy lyrics and kind of iffy vocals. But I feel like Hot Thoughts,
very much an album.
Yeah, analyzing their full discography, I'm honestly going to say that this is the best Spoon album. I did like their last one, They Want My Soul, which I felt like more applied to their strengths, wrote some really catchy, like strong singles, well produced. But I feel like this, by the addition of bringing in David Friedman, the producer of The Flaming Lips, they've truly found a sound that's really unique, really bright, really catchy, just really, and really the songwriting really matches up too, because I mean, this is much more synthetic than previous Spoon albums, but it really works.
And the synth work, it really stayed in the background, but it was still really prevalent throughout there.
Like on Can I Sit Next to You, the second half, this like brilliant synth melody near it. I just love that so much. And the other instance where synths work really well are Whisper, I'll Listen to Hear It, which is maybe my favorite song on the album, where it starts out like not the slow, but more of like a more kind of Depeche Mode type, like synth-based arrangement, and then it moves into a full-on like rock song near the end. It works out really well, and I feel like the songwriting besides the production is also really diverse and really well put together.
Yeah, I thought it was. I like there were a lot of psychedelic elements in there with like vocal delays and
definitely.
whatnot. I liked those additions in there. I think it's pretty unique to them, like comparing their influences with like Pixies and whatnot. I think they were definitely going in a more produced direction than Pixies were.
And I mean, it's definitely more produced and more synthetic, but I feel like this also helps sort of carve out a niche, because for a while I thought in the mid-2000s that they were basically like poor man's Strokes.
Yeah, that's what they were like coined as, right? It was
No, because they weren't coined like that, because they were very popular, and Pitchfork and NME gave them like high ratings. They weren't unpopular, but I felt like they had yet to carve out their own sound. That's not to say that this album is going to stand as a touchstone for the rest of their music, but I feel like this is going to be a big landmark for them as far as an accomplishment. This is a moment where I can fully look at this and say, this is a Spoon album. Yeah, I can compare this sound to other albums and say,
it's unique to any other groups.
Yes, this is the most Spoon album.
That's a fair point. All right.
So I feel there's that being said, there's an initial funk influence on this with songs like singles like Can I Sit Next to You and Hot Thoughts, but then there's also some weird like jazz influence on like the closing track. And I'm very
the saxophone, it was really
And there's straight up instrumental tracks on here, which I feel I've occasionally accused like when indie rock groups do like I guess instrumentals like that, it occasionally can come off like indulgent, but I feel like when Spoon does it, they at least know what they're getting into, and they don't try to just add like mindless instrumental tracks for no reason. This album flows somewhat coherently. There are a few tracks I think like are kind of tackle this new style in a kind of like flaccid tone.
Which ones?
I Ain't the One is the big example, because I felt like it had that. Other than the main melody of that synth, it didn't have much going for it melodiously. I feel like it was really resting on that melody, which in itself isn't that incredible.
Okay, that's fair.
So, do you have any other thoughts? Any hot thoughts, might I say, before we lead into our verdict?
No, I pretty much covered all my points. I love the psychedelic elements of it. I loved the production on it. I love the songwriting on it. I don't think this album really lacked that much for me, except for somewhat like just your usual filler tracks, which just personally, I can definitely stand them on this album.
Yeah. Overall, I'm going to give this an 85 out of 100. My favorite tracks being Can I Sit Next to You or Whisper I'll Listen to Hear It. What would you say are your favorite tracks here? Just take the track list.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'd have to say my favorite tracks. I'll just give them one track. Favorite track's Shotgun for sure.
All right, that's cool.
Give that. I'll give it the album itself. Yeah, I'll give it an 85 out of 100 too.
Oh, that's good. All right. So now that that's over, I think it's time to move on to the new Drake playlist, More Life.
Not album, playlist.
Yeah, playlist, of course. Initial thoughts.
Okay. Well, initially, first 2 songs in, I was like about ready to delete the album from
You didn't
my
like
phone.
Free Smoke?
The first 2 songs were just like, it was just like the Drake I hate personally. It was him. It was rapping Drake. I previously was not famous, and now I am famous Drake. Which is like, you can only rap about that so many times. I was like, okay, you know what? I'll give him that one. He did
it right on. I think the only instance, the 2 instances where that actually worked, where that cliche was like fresh, and that was on literally Nothing Was the Same in like 2013, and that was on like track. I think the only 2 tracks he technically did that on that album were Started From the Bottom, great track, and then Worst Behavior, slightly less great track.
It's like. See, I'll give him that one on that, right. And I was like, so it was just a rough start to the album. And then I got to track 3.
Oh, Passion Fruit,
and then I was like, okay, this is definitely one of my favorite songs by Drake I've heard so far.
Yeah, I really liked that because I felt like the opener, like that concert, like, okay, we're gonna start this shit again, was kind of unnecessary.
Yeah.
But then Drake's vocals come in and the beat kicks in, and this is really smooth, lush, like Tropic House.
That's just Drake playing to every single strength he has, and like I can appreciate him a whole bunch for that.
That's truly where the main theme of this album sets in, because in this album playlist, I'm sorry, he's attacking more dance hall flavors and more like Tropic House, and there's not like he hasn't meddled with that before. Certainly he did that on a few tracks off of Views. I shudder to say its name, but like on Controlla or on Too Good, which were 2 actually good songs off of that album. The few out of just like the handful of good tracks on that album, and I feel like Drake is really taking the style, and he sometimes stretches it out too far. Occasionally, there's a few filler tracks or just tracks that don't work.
I think there's a whole bunch of filler tracks on here. Personally, I think I'd say like a third of this playlist is filler tracks.
I wouldn't go that far, but I'd say there's definitely an issue.
I'd say anything. Sometimes obviously it's a playlist, so it's not supposed to like flow like an album. But there's a whole bunch of, it still offsets me when we're listening to like tropical house music, and then all of a sudden it goes into like gritty, like distorted rap beats, and it's like, like why do I have to hear this by Drake again?
KMT, the song KMT with Gigs, sampled a track from Sonic 06.
I did not know that.
They did.
I'm not surprised. I love the production on this album. Like, even songs I didn't like, I can definitely appreciate the production. But overall, like Drake's like lyricism and flow just doesn't cut it for me.
I wouldn't say that. No, you see, Drake. I've had bad problems with lyrical Drake in the past. Mainly, again, like you said, like the big macho, like big rapper, which is weird because the one that people usually criticize Drake for is being like the sappy, melodramatic, like.
Yeah, it just always confuses me when he breaks character and just goes like a complete 180.
And I mean, he still can write like great like bangers, like. Start from the bottom, but then again, I feel like the best tracks on here being "Get It Together," "Passion Fruit," 4422, which doesn't even feature Drake, Blem, are with exception. There are some good trap flavored songs on here.
Yeah.
I think most of the best songs on here play more to this style.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And like when I was listening to it, I thought that was the main style of the album. So whenever I heard something like trappier, more gritty. I thought, like this is I considered that a filler track, which is why I thought there were so many filler tracks on here.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I feel like there are some decent trap beats like on Sacrifices or Portland. And I mean, that brings into another question that a lot of the features are used here really well. I mean, sometimes there'll be songs that just have people Drake like creating these beats and then like hiring Skepta or Georgia, who's not even technically a rapper, who's this gorgeous singer, to try and do these tracks. And occasionally it works out really well. It's kind of off the cuff and it kind of doesn't like defeats the purpose of the Drake playlist. But I'd say it works more than it doesn't. The one feature that I was surprised that I didn't like as much as I did was Kanye's feature on Glow with the "we used to be selling fries, now we supersize" line, which threatens to pull the entire track to a halt.
Kanye just always he just has those like one or two lines per like I'd say like month that are just like, why did you say this, man?
Oh God, Life of Pablo was like half of it was like that.
Yeah,
and I'd say that's actually kind of what made it interesting, was him like messing around.
Yeah,
or I'd say the entirety of Facts, the song, is like those lines. It's
just like that's trying to the point though. It's just like, yeah, I'll agree with you that the Kanye feature could have been it could have been a bit better.
But going back to Georgia, I think she actually has the best features on this. She originally has her own interlude in between Passion Fruit and Get It Together, and then her verse kind of segues into Get It Together, which is this beautiful like house beat. And Drake only plays like backup vocals on this. It's either Black Coffee or Georgia doing actually the vocals, and I feel like he knows his place in this track. He knows that if he were to deliver a straight up verse on this, it would kind of kill the mood, because there is a fantastic mood going along with this track. And I feel Drake is off his rap style. His rap singing style is often taken for granted as far as something that is truly his. Honestly, he's using it to full effect here, because on tracks like Blam or Mediba Ribim, so those are kind of like tracks about like heartworn like relationships. Like Passion Fruit is more like a, oh man, we're breaking up song. But I think that what makes it interesting is it's more like, oh, not in that context like it usually is, but more like from a perspective of a friend who's like, we need to take a look and stop here. I feel like he's known at this point that some of the cliches on his like sort of sappier side are getting old, so he's finding new ways to attack them, even though still staying on the edges of this realm.
He's still playing into all his strengths, as far as like his auto-tuned voice. I just think it's produced amazingly. It's like I hear a lot of auto-tune that I don't like now. I think Future. Even on just talking about Kanye West's latest album, Life of Pablo, it sounds just like just not completed, just sloppy. But on this, it was really well produced. It wasn't too intrusive though, like Future tends to be.
Yeah.
It was just soft on the ears, which I thoroughly appreciated.
The worst thing I can say about this playlist overall is that it came out in March, because if this came out in the summer, I guarantee it would be the album that people will be playing literally all summer. And I'm not saying that I won't be playing this all summer, but it's kind of a weird release, because I mean, it wouldn't be a bad decision to release it like that. Even if you delay it, it's still like, I mean, it would have fit more. I mean,
you think it was more like summery album?
Oh, absolutely. So,
okay.
But I mean, there are some hiccups here and there. It's an interesting style, but occasionally he doesn't do it justice. And by that I mean just like filler tracks, overly dramatic trap beats, and just the lyrical cliches of "we made it."
Yeah.
But overall, I gotta say I like this a lot. It's much better than Views, and I wouldn't say is it a better mixtape. Sorry, Drake. Then if you're reading this, it's too late, because if you're reading this, is too late was more like classic Drake taken at a more laid back style. But it's much better than I think his first mixtape, which was Too Far Gone.
So like ranking wise, like how high up is this?
How high up is this? It's not at the top. The best Drake I'd still consider Nothing Was the Same at the top, and then Take Care slightly below that. But it's better than Views, it's better than Thank Me Later, and it's better than So Far Gone. I'm gonna give it a 78 out of 100. Favorite tracks, Passion Fruit and Get It Together, and that's all I have to say. What about you?
All right, favorite tracks, Passion Fruit, Together. I'm gonna give it about a 70 out of 100, just for the classic, stereotypical Drake that I kind of can't stand. That's my opinion. I also think that this album had a lot of filler, and it's like I was previously famous, but now I'm not. It's just I'm so done with that.
I know. It's like, and everyone's doing it now.
Uh-huh.
I mean, at a certain point, like people deserve the right to have that, like Gucci, because he literally like formed the trap scene.
I'll just give you your like you can have your one, but like you don't need to restate it every song.
Yeah,
it's
and I
like
mean,
we know you are famous.
The best thing I can say about More Life, the best thing is that it's going to be a lot of artists are going to be taking the style and doing their own take on it. I mean, it's not been a week or so since the release of this, and we already have like artists doing like tracks in the style of Passion Fruit.
Huh.
I shudder to use this as an example, but Party Next Door and Zayn have already done basically their version on that style, and which I mean is not a good example because the track itself is just mediocre. But I feel like that's a sign that this style I feel like we're going to see more of in the future. Maybe not from Drake, though. I say that we have this style is still more to offer. And
I certainly don't mind it because I really did like that song. I think it's in the same realm of like something like Hotline Bling, where I can tell it's going to be something big. Everyone loves that track. I like the track enough.
And
but
I mean,
yeah,
Drake, like it or not, has more or less delivered on a lot of the trends that have been paving through modern hip hop today.
Yeah, I mean, he very much hops on trends. I don't think he puts back as much in as others do, but I still think he contributes a lot to to pop culture.
Yeah. So that's really all we have to say right now. This marks the end of the Studio 143 podcast, episode 3. We'll see you next week. Bye.